Hi, I'm Patric Palm, CEO and founder of Favro, and this is the Learn from Leaders podcast. The background to these interviews is that Favro clients are some of the most innovative and agile businesses out there. And it's used for collaborative planning by marketing teams, by product teams, HR, management teams. And what this means is that we get to know some truly inspiring people. So what we do in this podcast is that I invite them here for a conversation about something where they are true leaders, so we can all learn from it. Let's go. And we are live with Mind and Martin. And today is a little bit special. Favro, we are a partner with an organization called Random Hacks of Kindness. And Mind and Martin did very well in that, and we will talk a little bit more about that in a second. But the reason that we partnered with Random Hacks of Kindness are several. I mean, first, we think they're doing simply very good for for society, as we want to be part of supporting that. But another reason, why we're helping them is that often when we meet with people at our clients, it is typically relatively senior managers and executives that want their companies to be more flat, more agile, and they talk quite a lot about the kind of talent that they want to hire, the kind of talent that they're promoting, and what's important to build an organization of the future. And when we have the chance to work with Random Hacks of Kindness, we have a chance to interact much more, with upcoming talent. Basically, the people that we are talking about, with the people that we're typically talking with. So now we want to make sure we talk with upcoming talent, which is really shaping what game companies, SaaS companies, the best enterprises will look like tomorrow. So with that said, super welcome to the podcast, Mind and Martin. I think we should start by basically getting a little bit of your background stories. What was it that led you to what you do for work today, and what you did, and why you entered Random Hacks of Kindness, and maybe you can also say like a little bit about the hack project that you were part of. That will be really cool as well. So I don't know, maybe if we can start with you, Mind.
Yes, of course. So first, how I get into like my profession, which is software developer. So I started off, I guess it's just like more traditional track of a software engineer, where I started doing computer science in the uni, and naturally flow into software engineer sort of internship and then career afterwards. And I still find it enjoyable for me. And so to the Random Hack of Kindness, like my initial thought was that I wanted to find some developers community that is outside of my work, because I think it's quite helpful to like exchange with people that do like different projects, maybe using different technologies. And so that's sort of where I started looking for some communities. And then I came across this Random Hack of Kindness, and I really like the idea that you could do this hackathon, which is like what you often do as a developers, but like for a nonprofit organization, which they can actually put it to use and for like good purposes. So yeah, that's how I decided to join Random Hack of Kindness.
Yeah, the hack project that you did.
Oh yeah, right. Oh, sorry. I was working for a project called Station. So basically, they are an organization that bought like a big old police station building, and what they aim to do is to like sort of enable students who like have ideas but maybe don't have resources to achieve like projects that are sort of profitable for community. Basically community projects that are initiated by students, and they are providing like spaces for students to meet and like maybe guidance and information that could help them get started. And the project that I was doing for them is that, so like they are operating based on the membership model. So these students would be a part of their organization, also for like non-student members with different fees and stuff like that. And what they need was to monitor their operation data a bit more, basically like the number of members, number of visits in their space, and like their finance and things like that, for it to be easier to like sort of maybe optimize the way they operate and things like that. Basically like the data that of how the space is used. So yeah, that was what I was working with Mikkel, which is the operator at station.
Okay, so over to you, Martin. So I know you are at Unity, but what's the story leading up to that, and tell more about your hack project.
So I've played and modified and created games since I knew how to play, basically, which got me into modding, which in turn got me into coding and 3D modeling, 2D art and drawing, and also to write and dream and learn whatever I can, and have a very diverse set of interests I could get into, because I like gathering up all kinds of weird facts and understanding how things work. And this kind of game design thinking and playful thinking about the world, and figuring out how I can integrate all different concepts, like school subject matters, into the games I was working on, was how I memorized about 60% or something. And with that, I mean, like everything past 7th grade was, in my mind, a thing I could make into a game. So I didn't do any cram learning for the entirety of my A levels, because it just stuck due to that process. And towards the end of that, when I was considering career paths, I thought maybe I'd go into engineering, but I've also done that for a while now. And I know that game development and game design is a messy field of passion in a way. I knew that going in. But I just figured that if I only go and follow one of my passions, I'd have too many hobbies on my hand. So I had to make more than one of them my profession. And yeah, after studying game design, I followed that up with works in level design, game design, done some teaching, and I'm currently doing some mentoring still, and an engineering job at Unity, and within the games industry. And I've done some biz dev in between, also with freelancing. So I'm advertising myself as a technical designer, sitting squarely between chairs, just like a technical artist, but for design. And currently, that got me into Unity, working on tooling to collect the data and produce visualizations of that data to help game developers understand how to realize their vision on all platforms that they care about, without having to sacrifice on scope or quality due to performance issues. And throughout all of this, I've solidified my belief that playing, learning, and working are, or at least should be, the same mind state, and that you can't really cleanly separate between them. Flow is central to all of them, and they can all be understood from each other. And I believe that this concept is very powerful if harnessed mindfully by game studios or other studios making, or companies making, any kind of digital or non-digital solutions, and even learning products. And I'm not dominant in this context of gamifying work or making edutainment games, but more making good products that have that in mind, that this is how the mind works to retain information. And I've just been wanting to also find ways to apply the design thinking and this concept to other causes. And this is what got me to Random Acts of Kindness, where I worked with a project with Purpose, which is a accelerator and startup school for women entrepreneurs. And the project there was to help improve the mobile experience of the learning material that they had for their online school. And what we did there was to dig a little bit deeper and not just go about what's the mobile experiences of it, but why are you trying to improve the mobile experience? Where is the issue here? Is it the retention? How can we adjust the media format possibly to fit that? What is the current setup of it? And throughout that, we found out that the CMS system they were using could be set up without much further technical need, could be set up in a way that was utilizing the databases and the CMS structure a bit better, which helped us then being able to create what you see is what you get interface for them to see where the learners are on the path, give the data to the website to be showing where they are, where people are in the learning path, what they've seen already, and thereby with the idea that that would help retention and structuring the entire format to be a bit more mobile friendly and help people understand how they go through that, and not gamify it, but just make it a bit more juicy to go through the content and make it easier to maintain and build on that.
All right, cool. So with now when we know you a little bit better, let's move into the main topic of today. What it means to be a collaborative team player in the organizations of tomorrow, and I'm super excited to discuss this with both of you because it has a bit of a connection both to why we started Favro in the first place, and also a lot of the other guests that I interviewed here on the podcast. And what I mean is that a couple of years back, when we founded Favro, my fellow founders and I, we had previously built another company in the space of planning and collaboration for large scale software development, but that was in the on-prem space, and we were really looking at the market, everything which is going on, and we saw that organizations are actually changing quite rapidly in how they operate. A lot of organizations are rapidly moving towards having way more flat organization, more highly autonomous teams, more self-managing teams. This of course have been massively accelerated by COVID now when people are kind of working from anywhere. So there was just a couple of these kind of trends that we thought just generally were very positive, and they were spreading outside of software development to really the whole organization. So really cool. But since we come from a tooling point of view, we were looking at, okay, so what does the tools look like, and that wasn't the best view. I mean, we saw that most tools that were designed for a little bit bigger organizations, what we can call enterprise tools, they build very much on principles of centralization, and if you take something like, for example, Jira, it chops everything into tickets. So everything is kind of like top down, command and control, and everything becomes the tickets, and it makes people very siloed. And we were like, well, wait a second. The trend in organizations going the other way. It's more about way more collaboration, both between teams, between people, but also with management. Alignment towards company goals is no longer just like a top-down process where someone tells here's your ticket and this is what you're supposed to do. It's actually more of a two-way street where teams are expected to themselves align to these company goals. And very often when I have leaders on this podcast, we don't talk so much about tools and Favro. I mean, they're normally already clients. So what we talk about is more, let's say, the leadership aspects of this. And one of the things that very often comes back is that if you want to have teams that are able to themselves align towards company goals instead of things coming only top down, that requires a lot of things. It requires things around kind of how you organize your organization into to like smaller teams that are cross-functional. Obviously, I like to talk about the tooling side of that. But the big thing that very often comes up, and if you listen to many of the previous podcasts, you will see this come back over and over again, is that there's also a new requirement for the people. the talent that we hire today it needs to be much more what I often call T-shaped. You need to have your specialty, but you also need to be more broad, so it's easier for you to have to be good at collaborating with others, and you need to basically the skills that are connected to being a good team player to collaborate is really key. So a lot of these leaders, they talk a lot about this, like how to recruit this kind of talent, how to make them thrive in the organization, promote them, make them into, tomorrow's leaders. So this has been like a very big topic on this podcast. And I know that both of you in this, hackathon were named, I think it was called most collaborative hacker, right? So it's like a perfect start here for the conversation. So maybe we start with you again, Mind. For you, what does it, being a collaborative hacker, being a very collaborative team member, what does this, mean for you? And maybe, why do you think, you were named that? Because you were obviously doing a lot of things right there.
Yeah, so what it means to me to be collaborative, I think it's basically just to make the teamwork works in some way. And for me, that is basically balancing between, some different forces that comes up when you work with other people in projects like this. One is you have to know when to hear people out about their options and things like that, and also when to contribute with your input. So it's this balancing between the input that you give to the team and the input that you take from the team as well. And also on the other hand, when you have to know when to compromise, as in when you can bend your maybe prejudice or your principles or your way of doing things, and let sort of the way of the team's way of doing things as a whole, to let that take control instead of just holding on to your opinions, and also balancing that with when to make a decision. So because at some point you will have to make a decision, and at some point some decision had to be made by someone basically. And so balancing all those forces to make sure that the things that have to be finished are finished, and at the quality that everyone is aiming for. Of course, the tricky part about that is also about making sure everyone feels like they're a part of the team and all those things. So I think it's just basically handling all those aspects without leaving out anyone in the team. I think that's what it means to be collaborative. And in this particular project or during the weekend, I think maybe one of the things that I was lucky with is that I was working on a project where I had a rather clear picture of what to, or a way to achieve what the organization wanted to have. And so they wanted to have this kind of dashboard with the data displayed and everything. And I had some idea of what tools could help us achieve that and what way we could go that route. And so during our brainstorming session, it was pretty straightforward for us, because we sort of have a clear idea of what structure we could in what steps can we work on, and then everyone just throw an idea of how we would achieve each of the steps, what programming language would we use, what tech stack, or what kind of programs can we use for each small part. So with that, it was pretty clear that we can go in step 1, 2, 3, and so 3 person working on that, 2 working on this and that. And so I think because of that, it helped me distribute the task. So we could just say, for this part, we want to do this, raise hand, who likes to do this part, raise hand. And everyone was really proactive, and they voiced their opinion. So I think with the whole team, we were able to work out everything pretty quickly.
Super cool. So, Martin, same question to you.
Yes, I like that. I'd like to build on the part of having everybody put their input in. I think that's very critical. Also being able to, draw it out of the people that might be not as proactive about it. I also liked, particularly a previous episode with Joe from Timber, that being vulnerable and accepting that you might not have all the answers, and putting yourself out there. And for example, when I was working as a game designer, you're not the idea guy or gal. You're just the person that's trying to assemble all the ideas that are in the room into something, into a shape and a structure that makes sense. And so for that, you need to draw it out of people. You need to ask them questions like, what do you think this would work like? Why would this be fun? Why would you want to be working on this? And bring that into shape. And in the hackathon, for example, there is always a tendency in hackathons to just jump in and code the solution that was asked for, just as it is in like a hectic day-to-day job. But I do think it's valuable to make sure that you've aligned within the team, that you've asked the stakeholders why you're doing this, what the goal behind this is, and ask questions until everybody understands not maybe exactly what you need to be doing, but why, and make sure that is aligned and not just following what you're supposed to be doing. So that's something that we did there. And then afterwards, like after a lot of discussions around it in the beginning, we had an idea of, right, this is what the actual underlying problems here are. Let's see how we can split investigating how to solve each of these. And because we had the discussion around it, we discovered through the further product discovery or problem discovery how the different parts that we were investigating, the backend side of it, the UI side of it, and just how to shape that as a product, and with which technology. We could bring that all together as a team and continue building on that conversation we had started. It was a nice thing with the hackathon being all co-located in one place, so we could just throw ideas around and keep going as we were. And it wasn't like, I don't think we really created much of any tickets of any sort. We just worked on it, and we were just like, hey, I found this. This could work with that. Oh, I found this. This works with that. And just go as we go, and not having to define too clearly up front what exactly the outcome is, but the direction, and then going to that. Not breaking the tasks and roles too cleanly into separate roles, but more into what do you feel like investigating from this whole space that we were looking at. What do you feel like putting some effort in, and then we'll look at what we come up with that within that.
I think that's a very good point. I think generally, independent on what level in organization we're talking about, all the way from the team to executive management, that there's very often a tendency to rush too quickly to kind of the how, and things again become stickers. There's normally way more work that needs to be invested and have fierce conversations about what is it that we're actually going to do, and then you typically need to think so much around the why, and I think you see it very often that you kind of lose the why, and then the what kind of becomes a bit wrong, and then the hows, and well you basically end up with something that might not be exactly what is desired. So on this topic, you have both the experience of being in a few organizations already in your career. I'm very curious to hear what are your observations and thoughts on what you think companies can can do better, and that maybe they are also doing very good, that to double down on. So basically, what do organizations do well, and what do you think organizations can improve to create more collaborative environment and basically be better at the things we've been talking about so far?
Do I go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Right. So I think maybe I feel like the organization these days are very aware of these issues, like collaboration between different teams, especially when the company is big and have developer in one team located across different location. I feel like this is being sort of noticed much more, that it's important to put effort into building environment and tools that we all can collaborate on. But I think one thing that seems to be tricky, from my experience, is that so like when the task is clear, when we know exactly what to do, this task has been done, and we have experience of what step exactly has to be taken, that tends to be like the planning or like the collaboration in those tasks tend to be more straightforward, because like we know how to break them down, we know who to allocate it to and things like that. And we are also better at estimating those and estimating what kind of collaboration we would need between teams. However, when the tasks get a little bit unclear, like for example, when a product is still, let's say, in a stage where it's not clearly defined yet what the user would need or what the end product would look like, I feel like that's the area where collaboration becomes really tricky, regardless of tools. So far, like no matter what tools I have used in those teams, it seems like unless you are sitting like side by side, even when you're sitting side by side, actually, it's still difficult to do that kind of collaboration in a way that makes everyone feel like they're on top of things all the time. I think that's my impression, like across different companies.
So yeah, those were basically good points that I totally agree with. They are going in the right direction. They are building these autonomous teams that have all the roles co-located, or like at least in the team co-located, even if they're working remotely with each other. But it doesn't feel like there's any single tool that I've seen used yet. I've to admit I haven't used Favro too much yet, that really built this out as a thing to have the more dynamic flow between people and handling the tasks that they are there. What I've seen is that, especially when as you mentioned, like you reach those clears where you need to do continuous discovery because it's so unclear, and you need to, for example, work on the engineering side to get the data so that you can understand what the data is. So then you can build on the design for it so you can figure out what the product is. And you need to do this in like very tight iteration cycles that are like shorter than a sprint. But you have to chunk up your tasks into tickets that are assigned to a single person and that are possible to be estimated for the next sprint or so. Then you just draw out your iteration cycles, just because your tooling and your process says so. And it's not really helpful. And you can have a company culture where you say, we're doing this collaboration, we're trying to have people talk to each other, but the tools don't support it. And then another thing I've seen an issue with is, and this is across the board, as I mentioned, I've tried to advertise myself as a technical designer. And I've talked to a bunch of companies on different occasions about it. And there's been people that told me, oh, we can't have a technical designer role at our company. We're too small. We don't do that. Or they said, we are too big. And I can only tell you, like, you can't be both. And people are still trying to separate people into boxes and have the role description very narrow. And then they might want to have flat hierarchies, and they don't want to define the titles so much. And then what Joe as well mentioned in your last episode with needing to have some structure of the hierarchy, not necessarily hierarchy, but like where people are in the leveling and how they move between them. Like, I used to be on the side of, I don't care about titles. I don't want to talk about titles. This is useless. I just want to be doing the work. But I do agree with his points about there needing to be that clarity of where are you and where are you going with it and what are you doing with it. And the system needs to be set up so flexibly that it can support people with more diverse skill set as well, so that they can apply in the different roles and aren't limited to just what their specific contract says that they should be doing. So those are the two things I would maybe say are the most hindering.
Yeah, that's very good points. And for the ones of you listening, what Martin is referring to is the previous podcast with Joey at Timber Games, and he was talking about titles in an organization and the importance of clarity, and especially when you have kind of working from anywhere situation, you really need to think deeper and optimize for that situation, and then transparency, clarity becomes exponentially more important. There was something else you said there that I picked up on, which is the short iteration length. I mean, this is definitely one of the absolute kind of, let's say, key drivers that we see in the market for what makes it so hard today, and that is that if I look at our customers, they're typically software as a service companies, and if you look at any game studio today, I mean, they are in practice a software as a service company because all games are live today. So it means that if you look at collaboration between, let's say, product and marketing, to take a classic example, in the old days, it was very linear. Okay, first you make the product and then you try to figure out, okay, what's the marketing going to look like? And you can't do this, if you have feature drops, content drops, event drops, on a weekly basis. This needs to happen, much more, in sync. And again, this is a topic that's been discussed on several of the previous podcasts. But I would really like to ask you from, let's say, more of like a team and people perspective, because I guess you've been in many situations where you need to collaborate with people in kind of in other disciplines, let's say marketing teams, operations teams, sales teams, whatever, any other kind of team. What kind of what kind of, again, observations and views do you have there? Do you find it to be challenging that suddenly you're talking to a marketing person, it's like an alien, or do you find it like no, it's kind of like it's super cool, no problem? Or I mean, I would love to hear just some reflections upon that.
So from my experience, also like with what Martin is talking about like collaboration between these teams and how organizations see different roles, I feel like one of the direction that I see a lot of companies are going to is like having a team that includes people from different disciplines, and just build a team based on a product or a service rather than like abilities or capabilities of like people in the team. So for example, I've seen a company that would have like a product owner, UX designer, UI designer, software developer, test engineer, quality engineer within like one team that support like one product. And I think that direction is actually really helpful when it comes to like short iteration cycle, because everyone has an input that is ready. Like the product owner already would have an information of what the direction the feature should look like, how the product should look like. And the software engineer, for example, can already give a feedback whether that's something that we can achieve in how long a time or something like that. And so I think that dynamic that of like interdisciplinary team like that is really, really useful in terms of, in that fits the context of fast-paced development that we have nowadays. And I think one of the things that I like as a software engineer, I don't get a lot of interaction with other like marketing department or sales department, but I feel like those input have sometimes been channeled through like the product owner or the one who sort of designed the product. They could get input or get like feedback from the marketing data or the sales data, for example, even though like collaborating tightly with the different department, with like tech team and like potentially like the production team and marketing team. I never saw that happening yet, and I would assume that like the collaboration there can be quite difficult in a way that we would have very different focus, like different metrics that I think to some extent having a product owner who sort of channel those information, who filter and sort of translate it into what a product team can use. I think that's a pretty nice like line to draw between these departments.
I would say that I hope you will get more of that experience, because I think it can be very rewarding. I mean, if I can just share an observation, I think if you look at a lot of the companies that really go into hyper growth, or some of the absolute best upcoming game studios, one of the things that they truly do well is actually that kind of cross team collaboration. Where product team, marketing team, they are really working in sync. And again, I'm not going to go into Favro pitching mode here, but this is one of those things where when you have to look at if you have something you're going to ship, when both, let's say, marketing and product have to look at the same thing, and you're forced to collaborate, as you say, it is hard. But this is also one of the core principles in Agile, that when you have something which is hard and complex, you need to bring that to the surface. You need to face it head on, and then when you start getting really good at that is amazing for a company. So I can definitely say that the ones who do this well, it is typically one of the things that leads them to that amazing growth. Okay, Martin. So what about you?
I feel like I'm mostly there. I'm also very. I used to be an introvert. I'm not sure when that changed. But the Unity office in Copenhagen is very, very nice and vibrant, and the culture is pretty great with the people. And so I do feel like within my team and with the extended team, like all the support functions around it for the products that we're making, we have a very good collaboration going. We have a very good understanding, and I personally love going out and talking with the different roles and figuring out what their work entails, how that works out, and figuring out how we can work together to get things completely across the finish line, including the marketing. How do we publish this? How do we present this somewhere? How do we build the learning material for it? All of that. But I do realize also that it's not necessary for everyone. It can be a bit of a leap to try to pull all of these different threads in, and it can be distracting, and like there's so many possibilities to do this. So I know that for some teams there is a need to have somebody in the team that kind of handles that a little bit, maybe as a specialized role, as a producer of some sort, to help with that, where the team members themselves maybe aren't so comfortable reaching out to people. But I do still think that there's quite a lot of value for every single team member to reach out, to work directly, collaboratively with their peers and the different roles, to build that understanding, to build that cohesion in the team, so that you know why you're doing this, why you're doing this in this order. Not necessarily everybody on the team needs to know what your deadlines are for the marketing, what the beats are that marketing has laid out, and how that works out, that kind of stuff, right? But not to the full degree, but have a collaboration, have a rapport with all of these functions going on, that you have a common basis to common language to speak. I think it can lead to quite some great outcomes.
Thank you so much. We're up on time. It was truly great. Speaking with with both of you, and for all of you listening, if you like this, you know what to do. Like it, share it on your preferred social media, and check out some of the other episodes. See you in the next one. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I certainly did. If you want to elevate yourself as a modern leader and help your teams become even more successful, then check out Favro Academy at favro.com. There you will find podcasts, webinars, articles, all free of charge. Check it out.